Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today's video is a 2011 Hyundai Elantra quarter panel repair. Customer backed up into this vehicle, created a nice little crease on the quarter panel. Very difficult, but let's get straight to it. Thanks for watching, guys. The first thing we're going to do is clean off the panel, remove any dirt, debris, sand, any paint transfer we can. That way we can get a nice clean visual of the dent, and that way we can repair it without anything really being in the way, like scuffs or paint. You just don't want all that crap in your way. So first thing I do is heat it up with the torch to get it nice and warm so the paint's malleable and it's not real rigid, and that way it doesn't crack whenever I go to pull on it. And I tried pulling it here with my hands to get it out, and I got a little bit up. So the first thing I'm going to do is use this. So what I'm using here is the Kiko crease tab, the centipede. I'm just going to place that right there in that crease and try to get as much of it out as I can. Glue pulling, that way I have less work on the back end as far as pushing the metal out from the back side. And you guys know that that's a time consuming and very tedious, trying to remove a lot of metal with sharp tips, and I just don't like doing that. So as you guys notice here, I placed the crease tab right in the middle of that crease, and I didn't put glue on the entire tab. I just put it in the middle where I knew the crease was actually at. So what I'm doing here is taking this and I'm trying to move that bottom rolled edge of the quarter panel and pull it out, because it's double paneled right there on the edge, maybe about an inch up. So that's what you see me doing here, just trying to move as much of that out as I can without cracking the paint. And so now, once the glue cooled down, because I use the Anson Black and it takes a little bit longer to cure, especially when it's warmer. But if it's cool, it works great, and it cures really fast. Or the setup time is much quicker when it's cooler outside. This was shot in cooler temperatures, but I did heat it up with the torch. So, good God, get it on there, buddy. Jeez. So I'm pulling it, I'm leveraging off the wheel and the tire, the edge of the wheel. And I'm trying to get as much of the crease as I can out. And you see there, it was very not really successful. So I'm using the panel edge pliers from B&D Tools to get the edge of that double seam as much as I can. And it just didn't work very well, because it just requires so much force to really get that to move. And you can see I'm using the anti-blowout tool, the shorter one. It's just very difficult using that. I mean, it has its place, but on this particular repair, it didn't work as well as I hoped it would. And I keep using it, trying, never know what's going to happen. And I'm going to put it on the dent dial here, and that way I can get a little bit more leverage instead of me actually having to squeeze those two handles together to get the force. I put the dent dial on there to see if that's going to work. And it worked okay. It was a little bit better, a little bit easier to use than the panel edge pliers. So, I mean, if you have a dent dial or something wide bar where you have stability when you're pushing and you use the anti-blowout, it works pretty well. I use this block of wood to get a little bit more of a higher fulcrum point so I can get more leverage, and it worked out pretty good. Much better than just using the tire alone. Yeah, it was complicated trying to hold it there in place, but it is what it is. The whole goal is to get the edge of that panel out straight, because if you don't get that straight, you're not going to be able to get the dent out, just because of the way the metal works. You always want to get your edges, your body lines, and what else? Main edges and body lines straight before you really start trying to tackle the finessing of the dent, because you'll never get it out. It'll start oil canning, or it'll become a bulge. If you notice bulges or oil cans, try finding hidden damage somewhere, or try looking at the body lines or the edges of the panels and see if those are low. And if they are, then you know to get those areas straight. So I removed some of the splash yields. That way I can get that anti-blowout tool up in there. And it wasn't really great because it was in the way. The splash shield was in the way. So later what I'm going to do is take the bumper off, and that way I can get more access through the vent hole of the quarter panel to get the dent out. Here I'm just using another crease tab to see if I can get some of that crease out. And what I typically do, I'll heat the panel up. I'll even heat the crease tab up. That way I get the moisture off the panel and the crease tab. So you see right there, I just pointed, there's a really, the edge of that quarter panel is in a little bit. So I'm trying to just bring it out and straighten it out back to where it needs to be. That way the dent will come out. So all I'm doing here is just stress relieving, tapping any crowns or high spots down. That way the metal will kind of move in towards the dent. The highs will go and flow into the low spots and bring the lows out. It's very, very minor. You're not really going to notice it with your eyes, but it does work. And here I am, I'm yanking it. Pulling on this thing very hard. I bought this crossbar in 2016 or 15. I'm really glad I bought it. It's come in handy for doing big repairs. It really has. So what I'm doing here is I'm pulling on the glue tab and applying pressure to the low and tapping down the crowns. So that way you're pulling the hot lows out and you're tapping the crowns in, and it's going to flow into that low spot and bring the lows out even more. So try that if you can, or you can use a tool from underneath if you have access, say for example on a fender. Put your tool underneath there, apply leverage to the low, and just tap down your crowns and high spots, and it'll kind of flow in there and bring it up. So once I got to a place I wanted to go, I just go ahead and apply alcohol and just let it release off the panel instead of pulling it off and doing more possible damage that I can't see. And you'll kind of understand that and know that once you have more experience with glue pulling. So while I'm letting the glue set up to temperature I want it to be, I'm just tapping down the high spots above the body line because there's a little bit of a crown up there. And usually when you're doing these bigger and more complex repairs, every dent's really different, so you're not doing the same technique. So you're really kind of guessing and kind of figuring out, okay, do I need to push here? Do I need to pull here? Do I need to stress relieve here? Knock down crowns? You're just kind of figuring out what the metal wants to do, because every panel on every vehicle is different. All the metal on every panel is different. You can have aluminum, high strength steel, mild steel, different types of elements in the aluminum. Every aluminum panel is different. They have different materials in those aluminums, so they'll react differently. So that just comes with experience and knowledge of doing repairs, and you're going to notice that the more and more you do, the metal and the panels start reacting differently on your pushes. So what I do here is I'm taking the tail light off. It's only 3 bolts. I believe it's 8mm, and then it just slides. It literally just slides right out. What is that? Okay, 10mm. There's 3 little holes, and then tail light just slides right out. Then you're going to unplug the wiring harness, and then you're going to take these 2 clips out, and then a screw right there. And it's going to be the same thing on the other side. 2 clips and a screw. So this is 14mm. This is the rear rail. The rear rails. The bumper reinforcement is actually connected to the bumper itself. So you got to take it out as an assembly. So when you're taking the bumper off, you got to take those 2 14mm off on the inside of the rails on each side, the right and left. And just remember that if you're ever doing a Hyundai, all Hyundais are pretty much like that as far as the sedans and the coupes. The Elantra especially. So once I got the screws out on the taillights, on the edge of the bumper where it meets the quarter panel, and then those 2 14mm on the frame rails, as you see right here, that's the reinforcement. Those 3 screws you see right there, don't even worry about taking those off because they're attached to that reinforcement. So once I get the bumper off the vehicle here,
the reinforcement,
I'm going to take this vent out because I want to be
able
to
the
get
bottom,
access with my tool
and they stay on there
to get the dent out, because it's just, you can't really go through the taillight pocket. You really can't go through the inside of the quarter panel to really get the great access and leverage that you really need to get this dent out, just because of the location and the pinched, the 2 panels, the double seams where the quarter panel and the inner quarter panel are bonded together with the adhesive. So this is what it looks like, about 80%, 85% done, complete. I still got to tap down that bulge right there and bring up the low spots near the edge of the quarter panel. But it looks really good. I think I spent maybe 2.5 hours on this repair total. And you can see there's a slight bulge right there. And it come out pretty good. Didn't want to bore you with the actual pushing because you really couldn't see what I was doing. But you basically, it's simple. Once you get that bumper off and you can get access in there, you're literally just pushing the lows out. You can see that bulge there, and I need to bring up the body line just above the edge right there. Once I get that body line out a little bit and the edge is out, the bulge actually sank back into place where it needed to be, and it became more flat. So once I got the bumper back in, I go ahead and put the tail light in here, and I put the three 10 millimeter bolts back on. And whenever you're doing this, make sure you do not forget to plug the wiring harness back up. Otherwise, the turn signals, reverse, tail lights, they're not going to work properly, and the customer could get rear-ended, and that would be a huge liability on your end, and you don't want that liability. So always double check, triple check your RNIs and your electricals. You can use a key fob. You can turn the blinkers on and go out and look. So get in the car, turn the blinker on, make sure that right blinker works. Check and make sure the other blinker works. Hit the brake. You can actually put something on the brake, wedge it between the seat and the brake pedal, and go out and make sure the brakes are working properly. Or have somebody look at it while you're in the vehicle or they're in the vehicle. One of those options. So this is what it looks like once I delivered it. Great repair. Guys, thanks for watching. As always, hope you learned something. You have a great day.